Hello everyone. Today we will be discussing and understanding the Block 1, Unit 1, that is Sungas and Kushanas. This is a very interesting unit as this will be the first unit post-Mauryan era where we will be focusing on not only these two political entities but also on various different foreign influences that entered India and help in the development of not only social but also an economical importance. In this chapter, we will also be understanding how come the Northwestern powers came to rule India as the whole in the subcontinent and what were the major reasons that led to foreign powers as well as foreign influences coming into India and being acceptable. First of all, it's also important to understand that with the collapse of Mauryan rule in 187 BCE, that period did not lead to any decline, but it only led to the emergence of economic as well as social growth of India. Before moving forward, it's important that we understand that northwestern India was the only region which was highly influenced and highly impacted by its connections with Central Asia, Afghanistan, and also Iran. With different movements and, with India actually experiencing a huge political upheaval with the Mauryans or the Mauryan era coming to an end, it actually gave the opportunity to different powers from different countries to come and hold that particular region because of its resources. We will be discussing it furthermore. With that, in this unit, we will be dealing with the political history of North India, which actually included both the Indian rooted central figures or you can say Indian rooted political powers, as well as foreign powers like Indo Greeks, Indo Scythians, Kushanas, as well as Indo Parthians. Moving forward, it's actually amazing to know that even after a huge centralized power was overthrown or you can say was destructed, there were a lot of literature that was actually presented in that particular era. Some of the sources are Mahabhashya of Patanjali, Divyadan Puranas, Malavika Agnimitra of Kalidasa, Harsharita of Banabhat, and we also have a few inscriptions and art historical materials. We also have some Puranic list naming a lot of rulers of that particular dynasty. We can also find some information in Gargi Samhita and a few inscriptions that have been found from Ayodhya, Vidisha, and Bharat. One important development in this period was, of course, the emergence of ruling families, that too, the minor ruling families in North India. Their information is actually provided through the coins that were minted by them. Of course, the coins of ancient India, all of them had rulers inscribed on them and thus it also helps us understand that which was the particular area which was controlled by the Indian ruler and which area was controlled by the foreigners, because particularly in this period you would see a large amount of coins, that too Greek, Latin, Roman as well as Indian coins being found in India as well as in Indian subcontinent. Now moving forward, we'll be discussing one of the most important political power that was rooted within India and that found its origin from Mauryas. As you all might have read and also know that the last king of Mauryas, Brihadrat, was assassinated by Pushyamitra Sunga in 180 CE. We also have the evidence through Bana, the poet of Harshvardhana of Kannauj, who has mentioned this particular episode. Now, the Shungas were Brahmanas, and there are several references to Shunga teachers in Vedic texts. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad mentions a teacher named Sungiputra. Again, from Panini, we learn that the Shungas were of Bharadwaj Gotra. But on the other hand, Kalidasa's Malavika Agnimitra describes Agnimitra, son of Pushyamitra, as belonging to Bembika Kul, and the Bodhayana Srota Sutra represents the Bambikaya as Kashyapas. There are a lot of conflicting statements about Shungas belonging to varied Gotra, but one thing that is sure is that they were Brahmanas. Now it's important to understand that Shunga rule in India lasted for almost 112 years, and Magad was considered the nucleus of this kingdom. Of course, the story of usurpation of Mauryan throne by Pushyamitra is referred even in Puranas, and as we discussed before in Banabhatta's Harshcharita. Now, according to Puranas, Pushyamitra ruled for 36 years and died in 151 BCE. He was succeeded by Agnimitra, who was further succeeded by his son Vasumitra. Now, in total, the Puranas referred to 10 Shunga rulers. Now, except for Pushyamitra, Agnimitra, Vasumitra, and Dhanadev, the historicity of other rulers is not supplemented by sources. We don't have any mention of other rulers' names, but we know from different sources that there were 10 Shunga rulers who ruled within the span of 112 years. Moreover, during this particular period in the particular region, we have different sources who actually accept that there were Greek incursions during the rule of Shungas. This information is also accepted and corroborated by Yug Puran. We also find that the Greeks besieged Saket and Madhyamika during that particular period of time. Even Patanjali indicates that the Yavana lives outside Madhya Desh, which was situated to the east of Adarsh. During this period, we have a very particular and important play that is called Malavika Agnimitra or Mitram by Kalidasa, which actually preserves the memory of the defeat of the Yavanas at the hands of Vasumitra, the grandson of Pushyamitra Sunga. We have a very small story where Vasumitra, Agnimitra's son, is provided a task of escorting the sacrificial horse during its travel through different areas prior to the performance of Ashwamedh Yagya. Here, Vasumitra defeated the Yavanas on the banks of Sindhu river. The sacrifices were performed after Vasumitra returned victorious along with the horse. That kind of tells us the heroism that the poet, or you can say the writer actually wants to provide that particular, you can say that this is actually poet's way of presenting heroism in the form of representing that how Shungas controlled and defeated and also maintained. They were actually successful in maintaining their own territory. Moving forward, as you all might know, that Ashok was follower of Buddhism, but on the other hand, Shungas were known as being Brahmanical Orthodox. In a lot of inscriptions that have been found, Pushyamitra Sunga is credited with the performance of Ashwamedh sacrifices. Even Divyadana depicts that Pushyamitra was the destroyer of Buddhist monasteries and places of worships, particularly those which were constructed by Ashok. They also followed the norm of providing themselves with grandiose titles like Maharaja, or you can say Maharaja Adiraja, then Raj Raja. There are so many titles that they used, and that it was actually presenting, it's actually considered a symbol of power and also monopoly. And that was what they wanted to show. We also know the Vedic practices, the one we just discussed, Ashwamedha sacrifices. Moving forward, it is also interesting to know that the way the Pushyamitras, or you can say the Shungas, came to power was the way that they were defeated or they were also assaulted. Because the last Shunga king, Devabhuti, was killed by his own Brahmana minister, Vasudev. And their line came to an end by 75 BCE and were followed by Kanavas, whose founding member was Vasudev. Now, coming to their territorial expansion, the Sunga ruled with its center at Patliputra and embraced the territories in the middle Ganga plain, the upper Ganga valley, and the eastern Malwa. Even the Divyadan and Taranatha's account include Jalandhar and Sakal in Punjab. These were some of the major territories, or you can say that was the extent of the control of Shunga's rule. Moving forward, we have their administrative structure. As you can see, the organization, or you can say the administrative structure of the Shunga kingdom did not remain the same for 112 years. Of course, it varied according to the power and the ability of the ruler at the center. But during the time of Pushyamitra, they had a central administration at Patliputra. He was assisted by the Council of Ministers, and his empire was divided into small provinces. The provinces were put under the charge of governors of royal blood, and the council assisted it. Central tribal regions have been practicing autonomous powers, which were also integrated afterwards. Patanjali mentions that the Sabha, which was convened under Pushyamitra, probably functioned as a council of ministers or an assembly. It is important to know that जो उनका एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव यूनिट था या फिर जिस हिसाब से वो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन चलाते थे, it actually kind of reflected जैसे मौर्यंस अपना एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन चलाते थे, इसीलिए उनके टाइम पर भी सभाज वर कन्वीन्ड एंड पुष्यमित्रा जो थे उनके अंडर सारी असेंबलीज होती थी, सारी सभा होती थी, एंड सारे काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स वहां इकट्ठे बैठते थे एंड डिस्कस करते थे. दे हैड मंत्री परिषद, और सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट बात है जो प्रिंसेस थे, दे वर असिस्टेड बाय परिषद्स. जो प्रिंसेस थे उनको कई बार गवर्नर्स की ड्यूटी दी जाती थी एंड कभी कभी इवन कमांडर इन चीफ. इफ यू रिमेम्बर, हमने थोड़ी देर पहले ही वसुमित्रा, द ग्रैंडसन ऑफ पुष्यमित्रा के बारे में बात की थी, हु वॉज कमांडर इन चीफ ऑफ शुंगा आर्मी. एक और बात जो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है अंडरस्टैंड करनी, इट्स दैट द एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन वीकेंड आफ्टर द पुष्यमित्रा's demise. ऐसा हमें इसलिए भी पता चलता है बिकॉज उन्हीं के अंडर काम करने वाले मिनिस्टर्स थे, उन्हीं में से ही जो मिनिस्टर था उसने उनके अगेंस्ट अपना कंट्रोल कर लिया था. ही काइंड ऑफ डिफीटेड एंड असर्व्ड द लास्ट रूलर देवभूति and formed his own kingdom, and that kingdom was called Kanavas. Moving forward, we will be discussing about Shunga art, which is actually one of the most celebrated art of ancient India. Of course, even though we know that Sungas के टाइम पर बुद्धिज्म को थोड़ा बैकड्रॉप में भेज दिया गया था बिकॉज दे वर स्टॉन्च ब्राह्मणास, वो बहुत ही कट्टर थे, बट स्टिल Barhut, Bodh Gaya, and Sanchi bear evidence that patronage was provided by Shunga rulers, and that too for the stupas. Even the gate and railings of Bharhut stupa and the fine gateway railings which surround the Sanchi stupa are said to have been built during the Shunga period. A phenomenal spatial expansion of Buddhist monastic sites occurred from 2nd century BCE. The period saw द फ्लावरिंग ऑफ विजुअल आर्ट्स। ये एक ऐसा पीरियड था जहां पर आते ही विजुअल आर्ट्स को काफी ज्यादा ध्यान में रखा गया और उसी के लिए पैट्रनेज भी दी गई। टेराकोटा इमेजेस, लार्जर स्टोन स्कल्पचर्स, आर्किटेक्चुरल मॉन्यूमेंट्स जैसे कि चैत्या हॉल्स एट भज, स्तूपा एट भारहुत एंड द ग्रेट स्तूपा एट सांची, वो सब एग्जाम्पल्स हैं, वो भी इसी पीरियड के। मूविंग फॉरवर्ड, हम ऐसे कुछ कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स पढ़ेंगे शुंगा आर्ट के, and from which the most characteristic former quality of Shunga art is its flowing linear rhythm that binds all isolated objects in one continuous stream of life. You can say that chalta rehta hai, chalta rehta hai, chalta rehta hai. It's like that. The coping stones of the period have huge lotus stalks flowing in rhythmical waves from form to form. द वेजिटल वर्ल्ड, वेजिटल मतलब कि रुका हुआ, वहीं पे ही स्थान, स्थिर, is intimately and luxuriously rendered in Bharhut, Bodh Gaya and Sanchi reliefs. The reliefs illustrates episodes from the life of Buddha and incidents that give us an idea of contemporary life. जितने भी यू कैन से स्कल्पचर्स या फिर जितने भी स्तूपास या गेट्स बने हैं उस टाइम पर, उन पर जो भी कला की गई है वो सब रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं या फिर ली गई हैं वो जताका स्टोरी से, बिकॉज दे रिप्रेजेंट बुद्धा's लाइफ इन होल. Moving forward, we have Indo-Scythians and Indo-Parthians. The Indo-Scythians are also known as Sakas, and they were the first ever large nomadic community to reach South Asia through Bactria. The history of the Indo-Scythians has to be reconstructed largely on the basis of numismatic evidence, as the names of the rulers are furnished by their coins. ये सबसे बड़ा एक यूनिक पार्ट है इंडियन हिस्ट्री में, जहाँ पे इस टाइम पर जितने भी फॉरेन रूलर्स आए हैं उनकी काफी सारी हिस्ट्री हमने थ्रू कॉइन्स या फिर जो भी उनका एक पर्टिकुलर रीजन में एविडेंस था उससे मिला है. लिटरेचर में है बट काफी कम है, बहुत थोड़ा है. Now, when we come to Scythian, it's a generic term which refers to a group of people originating in Central Asia and then migrating to South and West. एक Scythian clan था which was called Vanons and his associates who reached India through Afghanistan. On the other hand, there was the different Scythian clan जिसको हम बोलते थे Maois, who had crossed Pamirs and entered into India. पर in the middle of 1st century BC, it was Aziz, जो कि co-ruler था of the Vanons group, who assumed sole power and extended the rules of Scythians in India. उन्होंने अपने जो coins भी issue किए थे, it was with the title of King of Kings. Large parts of northwestern India were united during the rule of Aziz I, and his huge output of coinage suggests a great increase in the wealth. It is also said that he might have reached the northwest section of the Indian subcontinent from Arakosia through the Gomal Pass and through the regions watered by the Gomal, Tochi, and Kuram rivers. That an era was introduced in his name in 58 to 57 BCE, which is evident through the inscriptions. These inscriptions, which are dated in the era of the great king Aziz. This era was known earlier as Vikrama era, but now we know that it owes its origin to the first Indo-Scythian king Aziz I. Aziz I had for some time Asilysus as his co-ruler. अब यहाँ पर आप ये भी एक यूनिक फीचर देखोगे जहाँ पर एक पर्टिकुलर रीजन में या फिर एक पर्टिकुलर टेरिटरी में जो भी पावर कंट्रोल कर रही है वो एक नहीं बल्कि दो रूलर्स कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं. ये कई बार थ्रू कॉइन्स भी पता चलता था बिकॉज दे वर ओवरस्ट्रक कॉइन्स. कई बार एक पर्टिकुलर रूलर के कॉइन के ऊपर दूसरा रूलर अपने कॉइन्स छपवाता था टू काइंड ऑफ शो कि मैंने उसको हराया है और मैंने उसको ओवर रूल किया है और अब मैं सक्सीड कर रहा हूँ और अब मैं उस पर्टिकुलर जगह पर बैठा हूँ, मैं वहां रूल कर रहा हूँ. Now coming to Asilysus, he issued a large number of coins, but apart from this, he consolidated the kingdom and also extended the rule till Mathura. His associate, Asis II, succeeded him in first quarter of 1st century BCE. But his rule, however, saw contraction in territory extent to the kingdom. The coins issued by him show that he continued to rule in the regions of both west and east of Indus. In the region to the west of Indus, we have the name Strategos, जिसको हम बोलते हैं general, Aspavarman on the reverse of his coins. हम बोल सकते हैं या तो वो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी शेयर कर रहे थे या फिर क्या पता उस पर्टिकुलर रीजन में अस्पावर्मन रूल कर रहा हो. मूविंग फॉरवर्ड, इंडोस्काइथियंस तब तक रूल कर पाए थे जब तक गोंडा फेरिस, who was the founder of Indo-Parthian kingdom, ने उनको असर्प नहीं कर दिया. Now Indo-Parthians या फिर हम जिनको बोलते हैं पहलवास succeeded Indo-Scythians in the Indo-Iranian borderlands. उनके फर्स्ट रूलर थे गोंडोफेरस, जिनका किंगडम एक्सटेंड कर रहा था फ्रॉम सिकेस्टन थ्रू अराकोशिया और इंडिया में इट वाज फ्रॉम गंधार टू जम्मू पठानकोट एरिया. Their coins were divided into different principal categories. Of course, it's important to understand जो इंडो पार्थियन किंगडम था वो काफी लार्ज था, जिसकी वजह से Gondophares allowed Kshatrapas a large measure of autonomy. But at the end, even the rule of Gondophares was short and it was cut by the Kushanas under Kujula cat crisis. The other foreign power that is yet to discuss is Indo-Greeks and Kushanas. The Kushanas we will be studying in this particular unit, but the Indo-Greeks is quite an extensive topic which we will be studying in the unit 2 in the next unit. So with that, we have finished the first part of the first unit, and here we discussed the polity, administration, and also the art of Shunga period. And we also discussed about the extent and rule of Indo-Scythians, which is evident with the help of the numismatic evidence that they have left, and they were followed by Indo-Parthians, and after Indo-Parthians, that particular region was controlled by none other than Kushanas. Now moving forward, who were the Shungas? Give an outline of their rule. Now it's a very important and you can say very easy question, जहाँ पर we can say that Shungas were Brahmanas और हम उनका जो origin है उसके बारे में पूरी debate लिख सकते हैं. Then we should also write that how they were successful in usurping the Mauryas, the last Mauryan ruler, and it was Pushyamitra Sunga who came and established Sunga rule and how they ruled for 112 years. Then we can also mention about the extent, which was the middle Ganga plain, the upper Ganga valley, as well as eastern Malwa. And there are also some evidences that they also controlled a few cities in Punjab, namely Jalandhar, if you remember. The next question is, what are the important sources for the reconstruction of the history of northern India between 200 BCE to 300 CE? Well, we just read and discussed that there are a lot of literary sources like Mahabhashya of Patanjali, Malavika Agnimitra of Kalidasa. We also have Gargi Samhita. Then we have the Buddhist literature Divyadana. Then we have Harsh Charita of Banabhat. We have a lot of Greek and Latin sources that help us understand the control of different foreign rules, or you can say different foreign powers, especially in northwestern India. We also have Puranas who mention different dynasties and also the name of the rulers and the time period that they ruled. We have different inscriptions and we also have Milantpana. These are some of the few important sources that help us build the history of northern India from 200 BCE to 300 CE. And not to forget, we have numismatic evidence, the coins, that is extremely important. Now, when discussing about Kushanas, it's not only their origin that is very interesting and worth studying, but the rule that they have actually performed, or you can say the contributions that they have done towards India is very important towards, you can say, as a whole Indian development. They have been one of the important, you can say, empire that came post Mauryan. They not only were able to enhance, or you can say increase, the regions in India but also in Central Asia. So when it comes to the origin of Kushanas, they were a branch of the UHE. It was a nomadic group of people who inhabited territories near Dunhuang. It's in China until the conflicts with the Xuangu led to their migration across Tarim Basin to Bactria between 165 to 128 BCE. अब यहाँ तक आते आते जब वो लोग बैक्टीरिया तक पहुंचे, देवर 5 clans जिसमें यूएची ट्राइब डिवाइड हो चुकी थी. Now, the significance of the Kushana realm in the political history of subcontinent and its northwestern borderlands is enormous. With the advent of the Kushanas, the small territorial kingdoms in the Indo-Iranian borderlands gave way to an empire which was achieved through political integration of the region. There are a lot of portions: Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, कुछ पार्ट था चाइनीज सेंट्रल एशिया का, नॉर्थ वेस्ट ब्रॉडलैंड्स इंडिया के, मथुरा एंड समटाइम्स बियॉन्ड मथुरा टिल भागलपुर युगंत जो बिहार में है, वहां तक उनका एक्सटेंड हो चुका था, जिसकी वजह से कुशान एम्पायर इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड सेंट्रल एशियन एम्पायर. Now, when coming to their rulers, we all know that जब भी हम फॉरेन रूल्स या फिर उनकी पावर के बारे में बात करते हैं, ऑफ कोर्स देयर आर लॉट ऑफ न्यूमिस्मैटिक एविडेंस, कॉइन्स बहुत मिलते हैं, बट कुशानास के वहां पे ना कि सिर्फ कॉइन्स, बट देयर आर अ लॉट ऑफ वेरी यूनिक एंड इम्पोर्टेंट इंस्क्रिप्शंस जो हमें मिलती हैं. ऐसे ही इंस्क्रिप्शन है रबाटाक इंस्क्रिप्शन, which was written in Bactrian language under the rule of Kanishka I, जहां पर उन्होंने अपने predecessors के बारे में बात की है, of which the first one was Kujula Cadphises. जब हम Kujula Cadphises की बात करते हैं, he was the first ruler who adopted the title the Great King, King of Kings. He actually, it is considered that he actually took influence from Sakas and Parthian coin issues, और उनका पैटर्न भी काफी सिमिलर है. Now, he had united the 5 tribes of the UHE and made successful inroads into India. He established himself at Kabul and Kashmir. Now, coming to the second ruler, जो कि there is a lot of conflict कि second ruler कौन था. ऑफ कोर्स जो हमने रबाटाक इंस्क्रिप्शन पढ़ी थी उसके हिसाब से द नेम वाज वीमा तख्तू, द डायरेक्ट सक्सेसर ऑफ कुजूला कैटफाइसिस, बट क्लियर नहीं है. दो इट इज सेड थ्रू द इंस्क्रिप्शन दैट कुजूला कैटफाइसिस वाज फॉलोड बाय वीमा कैटफाइसिस जो कि कनिष्का के फादर थे. It is said that he was considered a supramundane being, often showing him as emerging from the clouds, an obvious indicator of his divine status. अब if you remember even अशोक, उन्होंने भी कुछ ऐसे tactics का use किया था, but Kushanas took it to other level because in Dasht-e-Nawar, the inscription of Vima, the Kushana ruler was described as the law of the living world. उसके साथ साथ उन्होंने काफी सारे टाइटल्स लिए थे जैसे कि देवा मानुष और अ गॉड इन ह्यूमन फॉर्म. Not much lesser was his son, or you can say जो उनके successor थे, the one of the most important ruler Kanishka I, जिन्होंने अपने आप को एक और नया नाम दिया था बागो, which literally means God himself. Now coming to the Kanishka and coming to his territorial expansion. Now the maximum territorial expansion of the Kushana Empire took place during Kanishka's reign. Now ऐसा माना जाता है कि कनिष्का की accession हुई थी between 78 to 144 CE. Now there is an era based on 78 CE which has come to be called Saka era, but it is also thought by some to be linked to the accession of Kanishk or Kanishka. According to the Rabatak Bactrian inscription, the Kushana realm at the time of Kanishka extended to the cities of Saket, Kaushambi, Patliputra, and Sri Kampa in the Ganges Yamuna valley. Now, if you can see on the screen, एक काफी ही colossal statue है कनिष्का का जो हमें मिला है from Mathura with a Brahmi inscription labeling him the great king of kings, son of god Kanishka. It is also representative of the role that he fulfilled as a universal empire. There are a lot of different titles given by Indo-Greeks to him, जैसे कि Basilius Basili, जिसको बोलते हैं King of Kings. And you know, because कुशान इंडिया में रूल कर रहे थे, उनका ऐसा कोई फॉलो रिलीजन नहीं था, लेकिन वो अपने साथ काफी सारे सेंट्रल एशियन यू कैन से रूल्स कल्चर्स लाए थे और वो ग्रीक्स थे उसको साथ में मिला के and with the inspiration from Persians, Chinese, as well as Romans, there were so many titles that he took, जैसे कि देवपुत्र, जिसको हम son of heaven बोलते हैं, सौटेर, सेवॉयर बोलते हैं, और साथ में कैसारा, which is literally the meaning of Caesar. Moving forward, it's important to note that according to the Shahaji Dheri relic casket inscription, the city of Purushapura या फिर जैसे कि हम बोल रहे हैं कनिष्कापुरा was named after the Kushana monarch. ये particular region इस time पे is Peshawar in Pakistan. Coming to the religious policy of Kushanas, he incorporated several local divinities into the Kushana pantheon, which were depicted even in coins. उनका एक ही मकसद था divine companions and supporters of the monarchy. ये पर्टिकुलर प्रोपेगेंडा था उनके कॉइन्स बनाने का और साथ में जितने भी डिफरेंट रिलीजन के गॉड्स हैं उनको ऐड करने का जिससे कि ये भी पता चलता है दैट हाउ द स्टैचर ऑफ कुशाना इंक्रीज्ड. There were a lot of Iranian religious ideas that were put together in the coins of Kanishka, which is the result of their Bactrian cultural background. उसके साथ साथ he has also included representation of Buddha as Bodho. Other gods like Shiva, Mitra, and Ahur Mazda are also included. Iranian origin के deities जैसे Nana was the preceding deity. Now by placing the Buddha on a coin, Kanishka equated his positions with that of deity. क्योंकि एक साइड पे एक भगवान की यू कैन से इमेज थी और दूसरी साइड पर कनिष्क की खुद इमेज थी और यहाँ पर उन्होंने आप कह सकते हो मे बी टू फॉर्म एक्सेप्टेंस विद इन द रेलम ऑफ बुद्धिस्ट फॉलोअर्स उन्होंने बुद्धा की इमेजेस यूज की थी which also showed adherence to Buddhism. Before discussing forward, we should also know some of his successors, which is an important part of the chapter. When it comes to successors, the most powerful and prominent, you can say, was Huvishka, who ruled for more than 3 decades. Now, the coinage of Huvishka is especially varied. It included a large number of gold and many copper coins. Several inscriptions have also come from Mathura. His control over the areas to the west of Kabul is evident from his inscription at Vardak. Huvishka also issued maximum variety of gold coins. Now, when it comes to कि उसमें images कहाँ कहाँ की हैं, it's important to understand कि उन्होंने कनिष्का से एक कदम आगे बढ़ाया and he followed a more innovative religious strategies and admitted a wide range of Greek, Brahmanical, Buddhist, and Zoroastrian gods for his numismatic pantheon. Now, there are representations of Alexandrian and Roman deities which indicate an inclination on the part of Hivishka to appease the Roman traders involved with Indian trade network. अब इस टाइम पर आते आते उनका सिर्फ एक यही मकसद नहीं था कि वो इंडियंस को एक्सेप्ट करवाएं कि यस दे आर द रूलर्स, और ना ही सिर्फ वो इंडियन रिलीजन्स को एक्सेप्ट करे, बट वो दूसरे कंट्रीज के जो ट्रेडर्स आ रहे थे उनको भी एक तरह का लगे कि हाँ ये हमें एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं और इसी के लिए हम उनके साथ ट्रेड कर सकते हैं. दिस इज अ वेरी वेरी यूनिक स्ट्रैटेजी जहां पर सबको लगे कि the ruler stands for them. Now, from the Ara inscription, we have the reference to another ruler, that is Kanishka II. Then we have the next ruler, Vasudeva, or you can say Vasudeva I, who also enjoyed a long reign of 3 decades. His epigraphic records demonstrate the continuity of the Kushana control over Mathura. Then we have successors of Vasudeva I from the coins, Kanishka III and Vasudeva II. The last possible ruler of the dynasty was Vasudeva II, and by the time of Vasudeva II's rule, the Kushana realm had shrunk in size. Now the end of the empire was brought in by the Sassanid ruler Shapur I of Iran. यहाँ पर भी वही यूनिक फीचर है जो इंडो स्काइथियंस एंड इंडो पार्थियंस फॉलो करते थे, जहां पर एक सीनियर और एक जूनियर रूलर होता है. ये एक तरह का हेरिडिटरी डुअल रोल था, where one such curious practice was followed under the Kushanas. There was less centralization under the rulers, और इसी वजह से सत्रप सिस्टम ऑफ गवर्नमेंट अडॉप्ट किया था जो उन्होंने किया था अडॉप्ट फ्रॉम द साकास. छोटे छोटे वही प्रोविंसेस में जिनको हम सत्रपीस बोलते हैं रूल, या फिर यू कैन से पूरा किंगडम डिवाइडेड था. नाउ मूविंग फॉरवर्ड, जहां पर हम लोग बात कर रहे थे कॉइन्स की, अदर देन कॉइन्स एक अलग स्ट्रैटेजी जो कुशाना के अंडर फॉलो हुई थी वो थी डायनास्टिक सैंक्चुरीज. नाउ द कुशाना रूलर्स कंस्ट्रक्टेड डायनास्टिक सैंक्चुरीज जिनको हम बोगो लांगो बोलते थे या फिर देवकूल बोलते थे. दे बिकेम ऑब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ डिवाइन वर्शिप. वीमा कैटफाइसर्स began the construction of 2 centers of royal cult. एक था मठ में मथुरा के पास और एक था सुर्ख कोटल में. Now Kanishka I continued and finished building the dynastic sanctuary at Surk Kotal. इस sanctuary को बोलते थे कनिष्क Oanindo sanctuary. Kushan dynastic sanctuaries have been also recovered from Khalchayan and Ertam. ये दो जगहें हैं उज्बेकिस्तान में. It also corresponds with their image of god-like king. Now आपको अभी याद होगा जब हमने अभी डिस्कस किया था पीछे दैट मथुरा में हमें कुशान रूलर का बहुत बड़ा एक यू कैन से स्कल्पचर जैसे मिला है और उसके नीचे डिफरेंट लैंग्वेजेस में लिखा गया था दैट ही इज गॉड हिमसेल्फ. इट्स ऑल्सो इम्पोर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट मथुरा में जहां पर वो मिले हैं वो एक तरह का एक सैंक्चुरी थी, एक तरह का एक मंदिर कह सकते हैं था, जहां पर रूलर्स के साथ साथ जो वो गॉड्स को वर्शिप करते थे उनकी भी मूर्तियां मिली थी, which also indicates that they equated themselves to God. This we have already done. आप बोल सकते हैं ये एक तरह का कल्ट था जो एम्परर अपने खुद का बना रहा था. Coming forward, we also need to understand the interactions between Indo-Iranian borderlands and the Doab, which became very intense as the major urban centers of this period were integrated by the Kushanas. Now we had Takshila in the northwest and Mathura in the Doab, which were located on the great trade route link that linked the Gangetic region with the northwest and finally to the locations in Afghanistan. Now, because of that, trade was one of the most important factor कि उस पर्टिकुलर पीरियड में क्या क्या चल रहा था, कितनी कितनी एडवांसमेंट्स हुई थी, जिसकी वजह से जो रूल था वो काफी स्टेबल चल रहा था. इट इज ऑल्सो इम्पॉर्टेंट टू नो दैट इस पर्टिकुलर टाइम पे इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड काफी ज्यादा डोमिनेंट था, विच इज ऑल्सो एविडेंट फ्रॉम द टाइम ऑफ होविश्का, जिन्होंने रोमन ट्रेडर्स के लिए अपने कॉइन्स में रोमन डीटीज और ज़ोरास्ट्रियन डीटीज को इन्वॉल्व किया था, विच ऑल्सो सिग्निफाइज द सिल्क ट्रेड. बिकॉज ऑफ दैट हमें जो कॉइन्स मिलते हैं उनकी क्वालिटी सबसे अच्छी है. Moving forward to new elements in the Indian society. Now we know that there was a large-scale movement of people across northwest frontier in the post-Mauryan era. Of course, we have studied that इस particular period में it wasn't only the foreign domination that controlled India, but there was a clear distinction between जो जिनको हम यावनास बोलते थे, फॉरेन रूलर्स थे उनके बीच में, और जो इंडियनाइज्ड रूलर्स थे उनके बीच में. बट इट्स व्हाट इम्पोर्टेंट हियर टू अंडरस्टैंड इज दैट जो भी थे फॉरेन रूलर्स जो आए थे, द ग्रीक्स, द साकास, द पार्थियंस, द कुशानास, दे वर ग्रेजुअली इंडियनाइज्ड. और वो इंडियनाइज्ड कैसे हुए थे? According to the lawmaker Manu, the Sakas Parthians were Kshatriyas who had deviated from their duties. Thus, they came to be regarded as second-class Kshatriyas. In no other period of Indian history were such large number of foreigners assimilated into Indian society as it was during the post-Mauryan period. We all know we had a class system, और उस क्लास सिस्टम में क्षत्रियास जो इंडियन ओरिजिन के थे, ब्राह्मणास जो इंडियन ओरिजिन के थे, इसी टाइम पर ऑफ कोर्स जो भी फॉरेन डोमिनेटेड रूलर्स आए थे वो चाहते थे कि हम इंडियन सोसाइटी में एक्सेप्ट हो जाएं. तो वो उनका उसका सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट कैसे था? ब्राह्मणास को मनाना दैट यस एक्सेप्ट अस, और उन्होंने एक स्टोरी बनाई कि यस दे हैड फॉरगॉटन देयर पाथ एंड देयर ड्यूटीज, जिसकी वजह से उनको सेकेंड क्लास क्षत्रियस माना गया. इसी दौरान देयर वर आल्सो डिफरेंट एरियाज इन पंजाब, राजस्थान एंड उत्तर प्रदेश जहां पर स्मॉल स्टेट्स या फिर यू कैन से स्मॉल लोकल स्टेट्स वर बीइंग रूल्ड बाय माइनर रॉयल फैमिलीज या फिर यू कैन से मेंबर्स ऑफ डोमिनेंट क्लैंस, जैसे कि औदंबरास, योधयास, मालवास, सिब्बी, वृष्णि एंड कुनिंदास. The Adambaras occupied the land between the upper courses of Ravi and Byas. Kunindas जो थी उनकी टेरिटरी थी between Byas and Yamuna. Three Garthas जो थे they ruled the plain country between the rivers Ravi and Satluj. Yodhayas जो थे वो रूल कर रहे थे between Satluj and Yamuna. अब with the decline of Mauryan Empire, ये जो ग्रुप्स थे ये पहले मौर्यस के कंट्रोल में थे, बट विद द डिक्लाइन इन्होंने अपनी ऑटोनॉमी ली एंड दे बिगैन टू कंट्रोल डिफरेंट पॉकेट्स between the rivers Indus, Beas or Satluj. But of course, because of Indo-Greeks and Kushanas, their peace was disturbed. And during the rule of Menander I, जिनका हम आगे डिस्कशन करेंगे, जिन्होंने ईस्ट एंड वेस्ट पंजाब को कॉन्कर किया था, Malavas were forced to move towards the Haryana region and then were further to East Rajasthan. ऐसे ही जितने भी बाकी लोकल स्टेट्स थी they were forced to migrate to ईस्टर्न राजस्थान हो गया, फिर उसके आगे आगे बढ़ते गए. Though they bore the brunt of Kushana rule, they recovered in the post-Kushana phase. But of course, ऐसा कभी ना कभी टाइम आता ही है because you are a small state. आपके पास इतने रिसोर्सेज नहीं है, आपके पास इतनी लेबर नहीं है जो काम कर सकती है, और इतना यू कैन से इतना पैसा नहीं है जिसके थ्रू आप वॉयलेंट एक्सटेंशन कर सको या फिर इवन प्लंडरिंग भी कर सको. And at the end, they were overthrown. With that, we come to the finish of the first unit of Block 1, where we discussed about the extensive rule of Kushanas, especially in northwest India. Then we also discussed about the prowess and contributions of Kanishka and his claim towards supremacy. We also discussed about how they were included, how all the foreign rulers were, or how all the foreign powers were included in the Indian pantheon. And then we discussed about the presence of non-monarchical powers and how they were forced to migrate from their controlled areas and how they withered with time. Moving forward, we had to discuss about the tribal polities of North India. Discussing about the tribal polities of North India, we have just discussed them, जिनको हम नॉन मोनार्किकल पावर्स भी बोलते थे, जैसे कि औदम्बराज, योधयास, मल्लवास, सिब्बी, वृष्णि and Kunindas, and how they actually controlled the pockets between Indus, Beas and Satluj. But with the inroads of Kushanas, Indo-Greeks, Indo-Parthians, they were forced to uproot their controlled region and move towards Rajasthan, especially East Rajasthan. In the opinion of B.D. Chattopadhyay, the significance of post-Mauryan Punjab lies in the fact that there was an overall change in the political economic scenario and an opening up of new networks of communications in which the structures of early Ghana Samghas too started undergoing the processes of change. आप ऐसे कह सकते हैं this tribal polities was the start of something new. तो ये गान संघास थे, ये एक ट्रांजिशन में थे, ये अपने खुद के कॉइन्स इशू करते थे और ये एक तरह का स्मॉल स्टेट स्ट्रक्चर था जिनको हम गन संघ बोलते हैं. आगे जाके हम इनको रिपब्लिक्स भी बोलेंगे और ट्राइबल स्टेट्स भी बोलेंगे. और ये इम्पोर्टेंट इसलिए है पढ़ने बिकॉज आफ्टर द पोस्ट कुशान पीरियड और यू कैन से इवन आफ्टर पोस्ट गुप्ता पीरियड यही ऐसी छोटी छोटी प्रिंसिपैलिटीज थी, यही ऐसी छोटी छोटी स्टेट्स थी जो आगे जाके कंट्रोल करेंगी. इनका एक तरह का यू कैन से रोलर कोस्टर था. कभी कभी ये बिकॉज ऑफ एनी डोमिनेंट कंट्रोल ये बैकड्रॉप में चली जाती थी, बट अगर एक पर्टिकुलर पावर डिनाई हो गई या फिर डिक्रीज हो गई उसी टाइम पे इनका एक तरह का enhancement of power हो जाती थी. Now the next question is, write a note on the assimilation of foreigners into Indian mainstream. We all know, we have all discussed about how according to different Puranas, you can say according to the literature, they were gradually Indianized, and according to lawmaker Manu, the Shakas, the Parthians, were the Kshatriyas who had deviated from their duties, and they came to be regarded as second-class Kshatriyas. And in no other period of Indian history were such large number of foreigners assimilated into the Indian society as it was during the post-Mauryan period. It's important to know that most of the rulers did not have their own script, written language, or any organized religion. उसी वजह से they became an integral part of Indian society और जिनको उन्होंने काफी ज्यादा contribute भी किया है. Of course, they introduced a better cavalry and the use of the horses on large scale. They also popularized the use of reins and saddles. And with that, we finish the first unit of Block 1. Thank you so much.